Hello, everyone. I do see that people are joining now to our session. Good to see you. And potentially we will have a little bit more asynchronously when everything is done. And maybe if you'll have the questions, we can start. So generally what we do is just to give few more minutes, just to make sure that everybody's connected, they can hear us quite well. And while we are waiting for people to join, what we generally do is just to test out a few things. First of all, if you are not a panelist, your microphone and camera is not going to open, so you can enjoy and listen to conversations. If you want to ask a question, feel free to use the chat button down there, or under more, you can also have a Q&A button, which you can do. If you are hearing me, maybe you can write something so we can see that. But basically, this is what it is. If we haven't met before, maybe I can start with our introduction just a little bit quickly. Hello, everyone. I'm Kaan. I'm one of the managing partners at Tenity. I sit in London. I'm Turkish, so I do have a good exposure to the region, and I do come to the countries quite often. So maybe there's a chance that we actually met previously. So before we start our panel, just wanted to talk a little bit about the agenda. We have really great three guests with us today, and we are going to talk a little bit about Central Asia, the next frontier for strategic expansion. I will tell you why it makes a lot of sense from our side, and then maybe we can have if you have more questions, we can follow that up. So just one more thing, Eda, she is running the market access programs that we have. Previously, we did more stuff. Hi, Eda, and we were planning to do one more in between. But if you have any kind of ideas or if you want to check what we did before, feel free to reach out. Obviously, you already registered. And for the next one, right now we are not really sure about the UAE project. We were building on that. Hopefully everything will be fine soon, so we will bring that panel back. But the next one that we know of is now in May, and it will be entering and scaling in the UK. This is where we are even stronger due to our office being in London. So it will be an interesting topic if you have any ideas or ambitions about the UK market. But without further ado, if you don't really know about us, so let me just talk a little bit about us as well. As Tenity, we have 6 offices around the world, and we do global programs in different parts of the world. We have an investment fund. We've been investing since 2016. We have 292 portfolio companies, and I think our asset under management is just a little bit more than 150 million. And on the other side, we run a lot of innovation programs. Innovation programs meaning we have programs where we work with startups, people with early ideas, scale ups, and sometimes it's even a little bit different, maybe like SMEs. And we've been delivering those programs quite constantly, and I think in maybe 24 different countries of the world. Just a few logos and how we invest. Our investment mandate is more on fintech and financial industry. So you will see a lot of payment companies, credit companies, obviously AI companies around finance. But when we are running the programs, it is not necessarily just finance. And we can talk a little bit about that. In terms of our global strategic partners and partners, we are quite lucky to have great companies which are working for us with us for a long time now. And when we say strategic partners, it means that they're also an investor in our fund. And then we work with a lot of great companies all around the world. And we have a guest from one of our partner companies today as well. We wanted to share a few things. Obviously, as a Turkish person, I'm quite close to Azerbaijan, and we've been quite lucky to have good relations and build good projects together. Right now, we are running with IDDA innovation program in Azerbaijan, basically running 2 hackathons last 6 months. And out of these hackathons, we've been helping teams build up their companies to build their like solutions, and hopefully they are going to be more established companies soon. So this is the program that we are running, and we have like few numbers from the both of the hackathons. And basically, next month we will be in Azerbaijan for the demo day in Baku. So if you are planning to be in the city, please let us know. Then I'm sure that you know IDDA, but if you don't know, they're helping startups, investors, and institutions to have a connected ecosystem. So in terms of if you want to engage with our IDDA program or Pasha Holding program, you can have a look at Ilayda. She's running our programs in Azerbaijan, so feel free to connect, and I would love to see that is happening. So, without further ado, I think like everybody knows right now, if they haven't before, um, I can have my guests. So, I will have three guests: Renata, CEO of Tomorrow Innovation Hub, and also CEO of Vital Capital. We have Hussein. I don't know, Hussein, if you can turn on your camera, but External Innovations Manager at Pasha Financial Holding. And finally, Tamerlan, Deputy Director of Payment Systems Department of Bank of Baku. Thank you very much. I don't know, Hussein, what is the situation with you? I
He's
think you cannot. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's trying to fix the camera. So let's
Okay,
see.
cool.
He'll come back.
Um,
Yeah, I'm really sorry. Technology is a blessing and a curse at the same time. So really sorry for that.
I know. Yeah. No, but that should be fine. We will keep your like photo here in the background. I think I also have a technology issue in terms of the light, so let me just do that as well. And yeah, okay, I should be back. Um, welcome, all of you. Maybe before I start asking my questions, thank you very much for like joining our session today, because as I mentioned, we've been working with some of the countries in Central Asia. Turkey is could be one of those countries in the Central Asia. So we've been hearing more and more about interest in the region from the startups. I've been seeing a lot of VCs are raising from the region, and they're investing in the talented companies that we have. So maybe we can start with a small introduction. Renata, can we start with you? So would you like to introduce yourself? And
Mhm.
thank you very much for coming.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope you have a good day today. So, basically, I'm leading the Tomorrow Innovation Hub, which is under the White Hill Capital umbrella. White Hill Capital is a management company. We have Tomorrow Venture Fund, which is a basic early stage startups venture fund in Kazakhstan, and we also have portfolios Azerbaijani, Uzbekistani startups, and we have two Saudi startups. Most of our portfolio are fintech or AI. And Tomorrow Innovation Hub is the same umbrella, but it's more about acceleration and innovation programs in Middle East. So we are building like a soft landing platform for Central Asian startups into Middle East, and also we are helping Middle Eastern companies to kind of relocate or open their new offices in Central Asia. Most of the Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, mostly these three countries. That's where we are investing in. But we also have strong relationship with Tajikistan and open in Kyrgyzstan. So we look at all of this let's call it Central Eurasian market now as a united region, which is very, very similar, but at the same time has its own unique advantages. And basically, we are just helping our startups to scale up quicker by geographical expansion.
Thank you very much. And I'm really looking forward to discuss about like the investment opportunities. And maybe Tamerlan, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
My name, as you have mentioned, my name is Tamerlan. Hi, everyone, and I warmly welcome you all. I'm a deputy head of payment system department at the Bank of Baku. Simultaneously, I'm head of expert group under the Azerbaijan Bank Association. It's a payment system and digital bank expert group, and I am working at a fintech association as a project coordinator. Previously I have been working at a central bank, so I am the persons who in charge or maybe who is responsible for the development of digital payment ecosystem in our country, as well as a fintech ecosystem.
Thank you very much. I mean, like, I think all of us are a little bit more interested in fintech and AI is like the biggest frontier of the current ecosystem, I think. Hussein, maybe you can also introduce yourself and then we can start with the panel.
Sure, with my pleasure. So I'm Hussein from Pasha Holding, where I supervise the program which we call external innovations, which is encompasses the venture clienting activities, venture investments, and also we do a lot of intelligence and reporting on technological advancements, insights, trends for our corporates. And that being said, also we together with the team, we manage the venture fund, which is a small fund, early stage VC, that's invest into the briefly in the Central Eurasian entrepreneurs wherever they are building the startup.
Perfect. I'm really happy to have you all. Obviously, we have crossed our paths for different reasons, and I'm glad to build on those relationships. And my first question is, like, from your own perspective, why do you think it's the best time to do business in Central Asia? It might be setting up the company, expanding there, or even investing in the Central Asian companies. I personally, I have my own answers as well. I've seen so many changes in the last few years, but maybe Renata, would you like to a little bit talk about like how do you see the region right now?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, for the investments, I would say that Central Asia is pretty unique market in terms of the very young population. There's a critical amount of young people, passionate people, high educated. The same time, the economies of the region is growing. Like all the economies are growing. Usually, it's in the world, the situation is different. Like if you have young population, if you have growth economy, it's usually the population is getting older and older. In our region, it's completely different. Second of all, is that last 30 years, I believe, all of the countries made a lot of efforts into education. So now, if you will take like an average 25-year-old from any Central Asian countries, they would be very highly educated. They would be very advanced in their tech skills. And that is the best source for great founders. So you can really get talents. The third one is that if we are looking on the investment amount every year, it's growing. Every year it's growing. And like last year, we found fund of funds in Kazakhstan. We have some of the cross-border funds now between Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Azerbaijan. And we see a lot of international ventures opening their branches in all of these countries. And that is a great science. And if we are talking about last 5 years, it would be preferably early stage investments, the same as we do in White Hill. But now more and more funds are raising their rounds for more late stage investments. More and more funds saying that they are looking for Series A or pre-Series B, and that is a great sign. That's why I think like we have a growing economy, young population, reach of talent, and a lot of new capital coming to the market. That's the best spot.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Because like this is what I also see, like in terms of like the education and the capabilities, there's no shortage in Central Asia. And I do see like more and more people starting with the companies because it's a culture thing as well. Like it took some time in Europe as well to follow US because US has a different kind of like a rhythm. But I think now people are really happy or like they can do the decision to be a founder. And while we are talking about like the funds, maybe saying from a different perspective, you can also talk a little bit about why do you think that Central Asia is having the good time right now?
Yeah, sure. I think Renata quite comprehensively, summed up everything. But just to add up and maybe to double down on what has been said, the the region cumulatively has the economy of nearly 2 trillion US dollars, right? So the median age of the population is around 27 years. The population is up to 100 million, so it's quite big. The scale is there, but the scale itself is not enough. And what has been increasingly being put in place is also the relevant infrastructure that supports the development of the startups in the region, and also those who are coming to the region and deploying their operations here. So, and that's true on many layers, like capital, public support from the institution at the institutional level, the proliferation of digital tools, the level of penetration of internet and mobile acceptance. So that all in total, I think, makes it a very favorable place for consideration. So if I just may simply put it in a way that or when in 5 years ago, the region was not on a map of the regional global investors. That's now no longer a question and matter. It's the question is more about how to get to the market and get the valid pie out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I do see a lot of like people who doesn't really have roots for the Central Asia, but they're asking me questions after they are seeing like where we are there because they have this definitely in their like map. So which is really great. And you also mentioned about the infrastructure. Obviously, there are so many different type of infrastructure requirements for developing any kind of market. But maybe Tamerlan, we can continue with you as well because you have a lot of different hats including like some regulatory stuff. And then maybe you can a little bit talk about like Central Asia and how the regulations are kind of like helping or like not helping. Obviously, it will take some time. It's not super easy. It's never easy. It always takes more than that we expect. But maybe, yeah.
Actually, the region countries the main followers in the field of digital payments and fintech ecosystem. And many of them establish their legislative base based on PSD2. As yes, now it's about payment service and payment systems. Formula, I had the time to investigate experience from Turkey, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and other countries. As region countries, Azerbaijan also followed this experience and formulated our regulation on payment service and payment systems based on PSD2. And we're in the first steps to develop our fintech ecosystem. And as I have mentioned, our followers. So when today Central Asian countries are very open to how to say to practice new innovative solutions and develop our market based on best practice. And also it's a good opportunity for foreign payment service providers to establish their own branch or to create new cooperation with fintechs as well as some banks which are open to in cooperation with fintechs to realize innovative solutions.
Yeah. I mean, I think I want to just go a little bit in terms of like this innovative solutions because we also need buyers, right? Like all startups needs their like clients. It might be B2C, it might be B2B, but personally, we struggled like when we were like growing with our like portfolio because a lot of corporates are quite risk averse, so they don't really like to work with the startups right in front. So maybe I can ask this question, talking about like the new companies and do you guys see more companies or people are having their like tools or whatever solution they have? I know again, like Hussein and Renata, you have a different perspective because you also have like a lot of corporate partners, and Hussein is obviously from Pasha Group, which includes like a lot of like potential buyers. So I'm really curious, like Renata, should we start with you? So how do you see like commercial activities if the region is getting like more things from the startups? Are they getting better at buying what startups and scale-ups are selling?
So it's a very interesting situation here. I would say that the first wave of great startups was created by corporates. So like the first, like, when GITEX Central Asia launched in Kazakhstan last year, when they announced that they're gonna launch, I've been talking to the GITEX leadership team, and they've been asking me, the biggest, like the unicorn from Central Asia is Kaspi, right? And it was very hard to explain that no, you cannot say that Kaspi is a unicorn because Kaspi is a bank. It's not a startup. But of course, Kaspi provide beautiful infrastructure for startups. Of course, it provides a lot of great conditions where startups just like started to raise. And that is the interesting thing, like Freedom, Kaspi, Uskart, Pasha, all of these great corporates are just creating infrastructure. And now founders just have to follow. But that happened like maybe more than 5 years ago. Now, it's more than startups are actually leading a game. For example, I always love to say the example of Zipel AI, the Tajik startup that we invested 3 years ago on the very early stage. And now the guys just closed the pre-series A bridge round for $5.5 million on the 60 million valuation. The guys are brilliant. In 3 years, they developed the technology in more than 20 markets across the world. And they're coming to the corporates and saying, like, guys, you have this old-fashioned process of credit scoring. We just enrich it with our AI synthetic data and UML. And they were like, no, we cannot. It's a very traditional way of credit. And we are big banks, we know how to do our credit processes. And the startups are just like crazy enough to say, no, we will save you millions of dollars if you will embed the synthetic data inside of that. And they prove it. And that is the brilliant example of where actually startups telling corporates how to renovate their processes. I love these ideas. So yeah, I would say that corporates are buying, people are buying. Another brilliant case, Pydax, also the startup where we invested, they just launched a very new Islamic finance that let you have halal deposit. You know that in Islam, you cannot have money deposit, cash deposit, but they created a system that can let you have this type of financial instruments with compliance with your religion, and people are loving it. People go in, the attraction is raising as crazy. So yes, I would say that maybe 5 years ago there would be more of the corporates who leads the tone. Now it's more of the startups who's just bringing those crazy ideas to life.
I have like few things over that topic, but I just want first, like you're saying, to have a share of voice as well. Like, how do you think, Hussein, like what is happening in the private markets? And again, like I am with Renata in the region. I will also come back to that. But how do you feel if the startup solutions are getting acquired or like bought by like big corporates? How do you feel like venture clienting, if it's working or not? Let us know.
Sure. Thanks. I mean, my personal take on this is that although we are talking about the region as in a whole of it, the situation differs from market to market. So in Azerbaijan, as I said, we have a venture clienting program that has been up and running for over 4 years, and we have a lot of successful cases. We have cases with Zipple AI, we have cases with Turkish startups, from overseas and so on.
Yeah.
There have been successful, unsuccessful one, but that's the nature of the innovation, right? It's unavoidable. But I was really surprised to know that, for example, the digital breach last year, there has been the colleagues made a report highlighting that corporates in Kazakhstan, on the other hand, are a bit hesitant in integrating and incorporating the solutions as the client. But on the other hand, they are more way ahead of other companies, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, in acquiring the startups. So it's a bit different, right? But I would say maybe I'm biased, but I would say that it's the context of Azerbaijan market. But of course, the startup should provide the value, but nonetheless, I would say maybe the leverage is not the right word here, but I would say that the startups needs more corporates in this region. I might be totally wrong, but that's my personal take.
Yeah.
That the startups need corporates in this region more than corporate needs startups, because they are not just the customers. I would say that they are potential enablers, right? So the capital will take you to the door, but the corporate clients will be the those who will open the door for the market.
No, I mean, honestly, I do agree with you as well, because I think Turkey had a similar timeline, because when the digital banking was kind of happening in 2010s, Turkish banks were incredible. Like we have few of those, literally challenger banks within themselves. Like Enpara is, I think, one of the earliest examples. If they were an individual company at the time, I think they would have been more successful because when you have a large company with you, obviously it also drags, like they would have gone to maybe different markets. It's the same with like other like solutions the banks had. Obviously, the big companies had the talent and the resources, so that was a time. But I also think that in Central Asia, it's change are like more startups where they can work with the big corporates and they can do like collaboration. I think previously we also had like some big corporates were saying that, oh no, we are really big, you are very small. Now I think they are like sitting on a much better table when they are like against each other, not just saying that, oh, you are such a few people with an idea, but maybe like more on a startup thing. So that shows from the numbers, obviously. And while we are talking about this part, Tamerlan, maybe we can talk a little bit about like the fintechs. Like, do you see international companies like more to set up getting their licenses and like maybe how a company like us, especially on the payment space, would come to this region or anything that they need to be aware of or like how they get prepared? Because every market is, in of itself, it's a little bit different. Yeah.
I have to mention that approximately the same approach we can see in all region countries.
Uh-huh.
As a foreign payment service providers, we have to obtain a license to provide payment service. Let's talk from our country perspective. One of the latest countries which established regulation on payment service or fintech ecosystem in our market, in our region. We have adopted this law in 2023, and it's gives us opportunity not also to formulate some regulation over the fintech ecosystem as well as to clarify the list of payment service and some main duties and obligations of participants in the digital payment systems. And today we have 17 electronic money institutions and 9 payment institutions in our country, and 2 payment service providers has obtained a license as a payment system operator. The newly established framework facilitates the representation of fintechs, including electronic money and payment institutions operating abroad in our country's digital payment ecosystem through appropriate licensing procedure. Imposing equal requirements for foreign payment service providers promotes a more competitive environment. I think that and I allow participants to enter in our ecosystem on more solid grounds. And as I would say, we have outlined requirements that are approximately aligned with those in PSA2. And this includes requirements mainly with the initial capital and own funds, establishment of internal controls, and some information security requirements, risk management system, existence of internal audits. Additional foreign payment service providers must establish a local branch in our country or register as a new legal entity to operate legally. And I think that we have appropriate opportunities and for fintechs and all, as well as foreign companies to expand their business in our country, to build a healthy foundation for the fintech ecosystem. Steps are being taken toward integration of participants to the payment system infrastructure and applying open banking technology and regulatory sandbox, defining requirements for remote opening payment accounts, implementing more robust identification requirements.
I mean, but generally, I think like regulations are quite in parallel with like the global use cases. I think overall, yeah. So anyone who's kind of like doing a legitimate and like a regulated business, they just need to do whatever required for the region.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, like maybe we can have like some quick fire rounds because everybody has some kind of like idea about the region. I mean, personally, again, like we work with a lot of different parts, so we were just in the Nordics. And I thought that I know Nordics and the Baltics, but every day I'm learning new stuff about each country, how they work and how they kind of like differ, even like a cultural perspective. So Guys, would you like to talk a little bit about like potential misconception? Because you also work with a lot of people outside of the region. So what do you think that people might think about Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, like from your own experience? And maybe there, so how would we go about that? Renata, would you like to go again? Like you were smiling. I hope because like you also have a huge exposure since you spend a lot of time in the UAE as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get stuck in here when I'm talking about our region. So, like, guys, we do need to work on our promotion. We need to professional PR. The brilliant things happening in Central Asia are not very noticed on the global market, and it's just because we are like just just in the historical perspective, we are kind of young countries. That's why. What I do notice, first of all, our tech, GovTech and FinTech, these two particular, are very advanced. Like, for example, do you know that in US and in Europe and in UAE as well, they are still using paper, like checkbooks, for example. When you
Good.
do yeah, when you're doing some leasing for like annual contract, you have to provide like a paper check, real check. Like how crazy is that? I cannot imagine anything like that in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan. I
Yeah.
mean, why would we use paper? Or in terms of the Gulf tech, we are much more advanced. Like you can walk cashless, paperless. You don't need any documents, nothing here. And this is just also because of the regulations. Our regulation is much younger and started to develop at the same time when our ambitious started to develop. That's why. And if you're comparing it to the regulations that is more than 100 years old, of course, is
Yes.
going to be more regulated. So what we need to explain is a little bit more about the promotion of how advanced the technologies are here. And also we do need to promote a little bit of our IT talents outsource because we do have a lot of capacity, software engineers, ML engineers, AI, R&Ds in Central Asia, which is not very popular because like if you would go to the global corporate and ask, where would you hire your outsourcing team? They would name Ukraine, Belarus, they would name India and Pakistan, but they probably will not name Central Asian countries, but we do have big capacity. So we have to promote it. We have to participate in all of the platforms, global platforms, to just talk about our tech and talents that we have. And most importantly, I would say we need to bring more global experts into the region, to the Central Asia, because as soon as I have my partners coming to Astana or to Tashkent or to Baku,
Yes.
it's done, it's sold. 2-3 days in any of our cities, and they are like just like impressed. Wow, how advanced you are. Wow, how many potential. I want to invest in here. I want to open my office here. I want to focus on this market here. Just 2-3 days. And I think we have to build this platform to all of the global talents, investors, big names, big corporates, just come to us as more often as it's possible.
No, thank you for mentioning those. I mean, like obviously there are like some events like Pasha is also running one in Merge, attracting a lot of people from different countries just to experience the Central Asia part because it's not just the money thing. Like people want to spend some time, they want to understand if they want to spend their life, maybe half of their life in a new country that they are not their hometown. Like even if you are just having like a small office, you tend to travel quite often. And to be honest, like Central Asia is not short of like good food, good people, and like it's a much better lifestyle. So when people do experience that, I think it's a much easier discussion to convince people to come. So I think that's definitely a great point. Hussein, do you have anything like misconception about like Central Asia in general or like any other country that you see?
Yeah, I will. Renata's point on underestimating the level of development is, I think, is pretty strong. So I would say for the outsiders who didn't have any exposure to the region, they think that the market is heavily underbanked, under digitized, there is low level of telecom penetration and so on. But when usually when they have a first step in, they get surprised, positively surprised. But the second thing I have observed also, that those who start, gradually start interesting in the region, the common misconception might be that they think that that's a homogeneous region. So although we share, a lot of things on a cultural level, on a language level, historically, and so on, still markets differ. So on a regulation part, on a capital part, on the infrastructure development part, yes, those, I mean, as a whole, we have it growing fast and have a huge potential, but still there are some differences, and those who are entering the region should consider that and localize accordingly.
Thank you very much. Tamerlan, do you have any misconceptions that you want to share about?
Yes, actually, I would like to know two important points. First of all, organizations think that it will possible to directly use the infrastructure of foreign organization, as they do not take into account the information security requirements seriously and try to store this information outside the country, and attempts to use the infrastructure of foreign payment service providers are observed. And the second main point, it's attempt to create a new organization to carry some illegal activities, to use this organization for such of providing payment services. Mainly illegal activities include, for example, money transfer between payment accounts, or transferring funds to some problematic regions, or some illegal sports or betting, or something casino games. Mainly two main points which we can observe in fintech ecosystem.
Okay, I mean, I will close this round with like my misconception. I mean, like it wasn't mine, but I had the same misconception about Southeast Europe. Sorry, like Southeast Asia, because like when you think about like, oh, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, because like when I have my friends like visiting from US, they're saying, oh, while we are there, we can fly there. I mean, it's a big geography. People don't really realize that, but literally like between flights will take a lot of time, which is great. Like, I mean, it's really good to do, but I think a lot of people kind of like feels like, oh, it's like maybe Eastern Europe. Like literally you can drive from one country to another like in 1 hour. It doesn't really work this way, but that's the beauty of it because there are so much to do. Like that's the potential, literally. Maybe before closing, like one, I mean, like obviously you all have different tips, so we can have your like I mean, like personally, I will have my thank yous to you, but also for the people who are listening right now or later on, I would love to have them to contact with you for different things, right? Like for Tamerlan, obviously, it's like the regulation governance, especially on like payment and infrastructure. Feel free to reach out to Tamerlan. Renata, they've been investing in the region quite heavily and they've been like trying to build bridges. So hopefully we will also do like more as well. And for Hussein, obviously, Pasha Holding itself is a huge potential partner and company that you can work, and also the venture arm is getting larger. So, any closing notes from each of you? Like, can I have something? And maybe we can close this round of like nice panel. Can we again start with Renata? I don't generally do the same round, but I think we have a good rhythm now.
No, just like what I've noticed, there is a lot of cross-border initiations right now for Uzbeki, Kazakhstani, Kyrgyz, Tajiki, Azerbaijani startups. And if there are any local startups like that, I would beg you to consider these cross-border scale-ups. Like if you are from Baku, please feel free to research more about Astana and Tashkent market and try to jump there as soon as possible, because that will bring you great experience of scaling up, and that will explain you how to scale up when you will decide to go more on the global markets, for example, for Middle East or Europe or whatever. You will already have this skill of localizing, understanding, marketing, research, etc. And that will just bring you a lot of boost for the scale up. So yeah, if you are from any Central Asian countries, just consider your neighboring countries for your first scaling up.
Perfect. Thank you, Hussein.
I think I can address sort of an insight for since we're speaking about the potential of the region, I think that the insight should be for those who are, I mean, beyond this region, right? So I will tell that as a final note, maybe that those who are willing to enter or considering the operations in the market, they should, coming back again to the previous note, consider each market separately. And it's really crucial to not underestimate the partnership with corporates because they truly might be the enablers. And the second thing that they should truly find the local champions because yes, the market is growing fast, but still, as a society, we are, I would say, very context heavy, trust based,
relationship based.
yes, relation based, and building relationships takes time, right? So there should be no regional strategy, expansion strategy. They should start small. I would sort of a land and expand model would be the ideal for this region.
No, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Tamerlan, do you have any tips and like thank yous to the people?
I believe that the countries of the foreign of the region have always welcomed foreign fintechs as well as payment service providers. There are also great opportunity for these organizations in the currently developing fintech ecosystem of the region countries. Of course, we will be happy to welcome also payment service providers that come up with new innovative solutions.
No, I mean like we are literally looking forward because like all of our like portfolio is like European and Asian fintech companies, and hopefully we will bring like more of them with the partnership so they can actually grow with Central Asia and like collaborate and create synergies. Again, thank you very much. I really appreciated the panel. Hopefully we will see each other like in person soon in different times. Just to remind, I will be in like Azerbaijan in April. So if anybody is listening and we would like to join our like demo day, that would be good. I think we also have our hackathon coming up with Pasha Holding also in May. So it's another one. And then we have the InMerge event is going to happen. So a lot of things are happening. So if you have any questions, suggestions, please do follow us. And thank you very much. Hope to see you soon. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye bye.